This segment of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. Tourism Minister Dionisio Diagla issuing an apology to Abaconians following an advertisement picture that indicated by its color that the island of Abaco is not open for business. The minister, in response to this, says the Ministry of Tourism is revisiting its marketing campaign to include updates of ongoing developments. Back in September of last year, following the devastation of Hurricane Dorian, an ad was created to let the international community know that islands of the Bahamas were still open, excluding the two northern islands impacted by the storm. Mr. Diagla says now, 5 months later, it's time to reconsider the ad, adding that the Ministry of Tourism did not react quickly enough to begin to change the narrative coming out of Abaco.
So Abaco is obviously a destination back on the mend. The question is, it's always a balancing act. When to say, don't visit it because it's impacted, it's destroyed, it has no power, it has no water, there's a lot of destruction and devastation around, we don't really want you to go there, to, okay, I think it's time to begin to reconsider a vacation to Abaco. And I think that the Abaco residents justifiably got very annoyed that we weren't being aggressive enough in beginning to get the message out that there are properties that are coming back on stream and that they're beginning to reopen. And so I apologize for that. I think we probably didn't react quick enough.
Abaco residents took to social media about the print version of the ad published in Bahamas Air Up Away magazine, which states that 15 islands welcome you with open arms. One resident responding to the ad posed a question, why is Abaco not a part of the Bahamas anymore, and went on to describe the island as an outside child. Mr. Diagla says the team at the Ministry of Tourism is being immobilized to update all of its information platforms to let the traveling public know what's open, adding that it's a balancing act.
As properties come back on stream, we will do our endeavor best to get that message out. And obviously there were parts of Abaco that were not impacted, that are wondering, hey, what about us? And so, we have to fine-tune our messaging, and I agree completely. And, this is what your population advises your government. The question is, does the government react to it? And I want to let the residents of Abaco know, message received, message heard, and we are adjusting all of our information to incorporate the developments that are ongoing on Abaco.
Mr. Diagla reaffirmed that his ministry will become a lot more specific in how it reports the developments of the islands. The Bahamas is made up of 700 islands and keys. 16 are populated. Of that 16, Abaco is the third largest populated. Bahamas Foreign Affairs Minister Darren Henfield says the country continues to agitate with the United States of America when it comes to travel advisories issued against the Bahamas. Minister Henfield recently returned from a high-level meeting in Kingston, Jamaica, where foreign ministers from the Caribbean region held a ministerial roundtable with the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Henfield says while he understands travel advisories from the U.S. are generated electronically and as a matter of American law, he says he believes that they are counterproductive.
Americans travel to certain parts of the world, and the State Department has a responsibility to advise them on what they ought to be careful of. Well, we try to iterate to the Americans at all times that travel advisories, we think, although electronically generated, are counterproductive to our tourism industry, counterproductive to the amount of businesses that are American-owned businesses that operate within the touristic environment. And we also remind that we spend quite a lot of money in South Florida. And so these advisories, we think, should be revisited.
Just last year, on a visit with U.S. President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Dr. Hewitt Minnis discussed the issue of travel advisories with Mr. Trump, advising that those advisories should be used to raise awareness and not fear. At the time, Dr. Minnis noted that Mr. Trump had directed officials to look at how those advisories were handled. Well, as for Mr. Pompeo's response, Mr. Henfield says the U.S. Secretary of State was conciliatory in his response.
He understands that tourism is our main bread and butter in the Bahamas, and anything that goes against bringing up the numbers that we get in tourism, well, does not jive well with us.
Other matters discussed at the meeting included security and traditional issues, education, and other things germane to the CARICOM and U.S. relations, according to the minister. Among the caucus of Caribbean nations were Belize, Haiti, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and host country Jamaica. Stay with us. Jareno Saunders is up next with sports.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.